Joel Searles. I'm with military.com. I'm here with Kyle Hausmann-Stokes, who's just directed and co-written My Dead Friend Zoe, which premiered at South by Southwest. How you doing, Kyle?
Great, man. It's good to see you. It's good to see you.
You too. You too. You're an Army veteran. You've been awarded the Bronze Star, so you're highly decorated, and you've come back into this, filmmaking experience here, and you've been after it for a while, and this is a great big break for you. Now that this has come out, it's been at South by Southwest. You've had so many people come up and speak with you and give you their responses. What has been the most impactful takeaway or takeaways from your responses of people seeing this?
Yeah. You're right. We did premiere at South by Southwest just about a year ago, but we are actually just coming out here in 2 weeks. So February 28th, we'll be in theaters nationwide, and we are very excited and need people to see it in theaters, especially veterans. If they don't, they're gonna owe me push-ups. I think the most meaningful responses I've received, from veterans and non-veterans alike, but I guess I'll just talk on a few veterans things because we're here at military.com. I've had the film is about post-traumatic growth. It's about it's an uplifting film about a lot of the stuff that we veterans can all relate to, but this is not a sad story. It's not a Debbie Downer story. There's levity along with the gravity, but it's ultimately about talking about it. I didn't want to talk about my stuff. When I got back, I was pretty stubborn. I was an infantry guy. It was a Vietnam vet, my grandfather, played by Ed Harris in the film, and then a VA counselor played by Morgan Freeman in the film that, shook some sense into me in a way. And to that extent, I learned to talk about it, and that's been the greatest response I've received. I had a Vietnam vet come up to me at South by and say, I don't talk about it stuff, but I saw your film, and I think I'm going to talk about it. That was pretty cool. I was in Mill Valley Film Festival. I saw a huge Marine, huge dude come down afterwards, and sometimes I'm actually not quite sure how fellow grunts like me, especially devil dogs, are gonna to receive the film, and because there's no combat in this film, not directly. This is a different kind of it's not a war film, and he was in tears. He was in tears, and those are the things that I think are the most meaningful.
Absolutely. And I think that's what sets your film apart is the fact it's not a war film. There's elements in country and scenes in country, but it's not like Platoon. It's not Saving Private Ryan. It's not Full Metal Jacket. It's different, and I very much appreciated it. I'm sure you've heard that a lot from folks. As a Marine Corps veteran, I still a veteran of Afghanistan, and I still serve in the reserves in the Marine Corps.
We do have a coloring book for you Marines for afterwards with purple crayons as well. Yeah.
That's very kind of you. I didn't know the Army actually could spell coloring book or order them, but that's really wonderful. You guys did that for us.
Yeah.
We'll be sure to share the red crayons. They taste like cherry.
They are tasty. Yeah. Yeah.
And full of nutrients. The Marine Corps started putting them in MREs with protein. So, it's all a game. Having seen it, and processed it and, recognizing it, there's a lot of elements in the film that, it's Merritt talking to her conscience in a way. And I've read through the press notes, some of your inspiration, but to dial that in even more for viewers, people to entice them to see what was that inspiration to make it a specter, kind of like a ghost, almost like a Twilight Zone episode in a way. That's what makes it so different.
Yeah, it was just pulled from my real life. My flavor of PTSD, I had it from combat when I got back, but specifically there were some other things as well, and survivor's guilt. And I guess it was just this notion of like a memory of a person in particular. And this film, I say, is like 93% autobiographical. But no, I did not ever see directly my dead buddies. That would be schizophrenia. but it felt like I did, and I could feel them and feel their presence in areas. And you have these conversations in your head with people and about what could have been different. And so, yeah, that's where the concept came from. And again, I'm a creative person. I've always been an artist, and wanting to tell a military story that had some cool magical realism in there. I wanted to tell an entertaining story about a friendship and family. They happen to be vets, whatever. It's a big part of the film, but like we veterans, there's so much more to the story than just the service aspect. So yeah, that I thought that would be an interesting way to take something that might be otherwise, maybe very serious to talk about and make it engaging and entertaining. It's like a little, like Sonequa says, a little bit of sugar with the medicine.
A great way of putting it. It's definitely got a supernatural sense that does remind me of Rod Serling's work, who was he saw a lot of combat and has shell shock after he returned from World War II and turned to writing, eventually Twilight Zone and Night Gallery, um,
Totally.
to process his um, post-traumatic stress, and he mixed in a lot of supernatural elements to his shows. So it reminded me of that in a very good way, in a healthy way, in a I don't know if it was an indirect homage, if you like his series or his work, but a very positive reflection in your own creative work and your own story that you developed. That again, very different, unique uh, version of a post-traumatic stress film, or people just dealing with life. And I will say, I think it's interesting that Merritt, chose and was convinced in a way to go visit and spend time with her grandfather, who would know that story intimately himself as a
Right.
Vietnam veteran. And I've
Totally.
always been a big fan of Ed Harris's work, whether it's The Right Stuff or Apollo 13 or even his westerns. But I totally bought him as a Vietnam vet, and I knew that he had a good heart underneath that. His character did, but he was gruff, as I'm
Totally.
sure you've met.
He's playing my grandfather. So yeah, he did that very well. It's got this. He didn't even have to try.
Yeah, it was effortless with his skill set. Um, you've talked about the messages and some of the elements in the story, and it's being about post-traumatic healing. Is there anything that's really helped you process some of your own trauma from the war that you might want to share with some of our viewers?
Talking about it. I mean, that's what this film is, and like I said, I was stubborn and thick-headed about that. We don't do that. You don't talk about it. You just suck it up and drive on, and drink water. And it's one of the things I hope folks, specifically veterans, will take away from the film is like, you're not strong by not talking about it. You're not brave by not dealing with it. You're brave because you do. You're strong because you did. I would go as far to say you're dumb for not doing that. You're doing a disservice to yourself and the people around you. And so for me, it's been talking about it in a lot of different contexts. I didn't do it initially in group therapy or at the VA one-on-one. I had a couple bad experiences. I think a lot of vets have at the VA or wherever it is. But guess what? You got to kick some tires. And I found a good one. Finally found a good one, person that I liked. But even prior to that, it was just like getting together with other veterans. I started a veterans organization here in Los Angeles, and then just finding that community, being around other vets, there's just something about it, I don't know. We all are misfits from the same organization, and that was also really helpful. And then just in my journey of not only making this film, but I've dedicated my whole career to telling military and veteran stories, and every single piece that I do, whether it's for the VA or nonprofit, there's always vets on set, either in front of or behind the camera, just like you were, Joel. And we have these conversations, and that's it right there. That's the healing.
Absolutely. A group therapy through a creative exercise or operation. You had a lot of veterans in front of the camera, one of which, Alicia Borgia, is a friend of mine.
Awesome.
We've collaborated together. She's been through a lot um, through her service and still serves. What was if you had a percentage or maybe a rough number of veteran
90. 90%. We are, I quantified that a long time ago, but yes, 90%, including this guy named Morgan Freeman, who's an Air Force veteran. So, yeah, very, very proud of that.
And that's front and behind the camera?
In front of the camera. We had veterans behind the camera as well, but not as many. But no, our sound technician is a devil dog like you. We had a lot of the all of the background that you see in Afghanistan, all real veterans. Just yeah, a lot of vets. The woman who sings at the music in the park, she's wearing her real uniform, and I just love her first cav because my grandpa was first cav, and so a lot of vets. In front of the camera and look through my organization VME, we hope to put more vets behind camera as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, my great uncle was first air cav in Vietnam, so I um, feel you there. It was a good patch to see.
Yeah.
What is up next for you?
Yeah, I'm going to continue to tell veteran stories, I think, as long as I'm kicking. But I think for the next thing I do, it probably won't be. And I think not only I've been doing this for maybe, gosh, almost 20 years. I've been directing, and it's been a long journey just to get to a feature film. It's a marathon times a marathon, you know. But I have something coming up that's about men. My Dead Friend Zoe is about women. This is about men. It's called Men's Group. It's about adult male friendship and loneliness and how men really suck at communication amongst ourselves on a genuine level. So we're going to explore that also through the lens of dark humor. I'm also working on a pretty cool sports film that has to do with brothers in the MLB and the NFL. And I'm excited to show the industry that we vets are not just the guys and girls you plug into the military story. We have a lot of stories to tell and are gonna, yeah, that's just a facet of who we are. So I'm excited to do that next. And then after that, I do have another very cool veteran project I'm looking forward to do that has a bit of a grounded superhero element to it. So yeah.
Great. I mean, you've got a plethora of options there to work from. That's always what you want as a creative to
Right.
begin. So it's been great spending time with you, getting to hear more of the backstory behind this film. I'm going to be sharing this with my veterans group and Marines. There's a veterans group at my church I'm going to share it with and suggest they go out together and see it, if not all of us in one group, but in different ones. All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Joel. Okay.
Hi, I'm Joel Searles. I'm with military.com. I'm a Marine Corps veteran and really enjoyed the film and enjoyed your performance. I thought it was wonderful. And Sonequa.
Oh, thank you. It is really, really nice to meet you too. And I have since learned that while saying thank you for your service is nice, it's not enough. So I won't even say it, but I am very grateful for you.
Oh, it's okay. You can say it. I understand where it's coming from. It's coming from a good place.
Well, thank you for your service.
Welcome. Thank you. To start off, being a veteran of Afghanistan, having come home, had post-traumatic growth, which you go through in the film. Your choices, your emotional being of your character, it resonated with me on many levels. I felt an understanding of what your character was dealing with, having dealt with similar things. The survivor's guilt, and it made me want to ask, what, if you care to share, what were your choices and inspirations for your character?
Oh man, the words that you just said are just like the best. They're the best to hear. Thank you for that. Kyle Hausmann-Stokes, who's obviously he's our director and the writer. AJ Bermuda has also helped with the script, but this is an autobiographical story. It's about Kyle's life, and he's an Army vet. He was a staff sergeant, and this is based on his life. It's 93% his life, as he says. And so my inspiration was him. He wanted to tell this story to honor the battle buddies that he had lost and hopefully to save lives. And so I have been honored to stand with him and to bring his life to light, or to the light. And I just did the best that I could do with that, because it's an entirely unfamiliar experience. I have not served. I have family members who have. I have friends who have. But there's so much about your world and about just service in general that I did not know. That broke my heart to find out. But I've grown so much and learned so much. And of course, this is not just for veterans. This film is for anybody struggling with these things. But it is also specifically a veteran story. So, man, it has been quite a lesson in life for me.
You'd mentioned, thank you for that. You'd mentioned that you had some family and friends that were veterans. Did you speak with them, to do some research for the role, or maybe they'd shared something with you already?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I had the luxury of having Kyle, right? Because it was so specific that Merritt is Kyle, basically, right? He decided to have a Black woman tell his story. And so I wanted to make sure I had singularity of focus, because this is who I was bringing to life. And I knew that others would relate to it, or I hoped that others would relate to it. And it is true that they have. Even though this is so specifically his story, so many people have had similar experiences like yourself. So I really focused in on him. I did listen to a lot of veterans. A lot of the actors in the film are veterans. Everybody in the group session scenes are real veterans, and they're actors who happen to be veterans. And they were telling me their stories. I was listening to them. I was listening to anybody who would share their story with me, and they did graciously, and nobody more than Kyle, right? So I just opened my ears and I opened my heart and just sort of surrendered to it.
Absolutely. It comes across for sure, the depth of your research, depth of the seriousness that you take the acting art form.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. What challenges did you confront with the role and your process through portraying the character?
Oh man, stepping into somebody else's shoes is challenging. Stepping into these particular shoes was very challenging. It was very painful, but there were many times over the course of shooting where I would feel I was hurting. And I would say to myself, yes, but he actually went through this. So you'll be all right. Just do your job. I would say that to myself a lot, because I have my own grief. I have my own sort of touch point into this story. I know what it's like to have survivor's remorse. I know what it's like to carry guilt and shame, almost to the point of it personifying itself and seeking to take over your life. I have gone through that, and Jesus had to heal me from that. So a lot of that pain, I was intimately aware of. I did not use it, but it was there. And I feel that what was most challenging to me was just wanting so desperately to do it justice. And there were times where that would go a bit too far. I think I can say now, with hindsight being 2020, I can be like, okay, I was being really hard on myself because I just wanted so desperately to do it right and to honor the ones that he lost, that he told the story for, to honor all the folks that have been lost, and to honor everyone's pain, and to honor these veterans' experiences. I wanted to do so much honoring, and it was like, it was heavy. It was heavy at times. It really was. But by the grace of God, I got through it.
Amen to that.
Yes.
You and Natalie had a great peer relationship, in the film, and obviously there's some different elements there, that I want to save for the viewing audience to see when the movie comes out. What was it like being on screen with some real heavyweights like Morgan and Ed Harris?
Oh yeah. Well, even first off with Natalie, Natalie is a big, she's a big reason why this film is as great as it is, right? You really needed the comedy, you needed the humor, you needed the spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down, and she is that, she's utterly captivating, and I think that balance of drama and humor, that balance of gravity and levity, was so necessary for this film to really click and to really work. And her and I were we were so quickly friends, and it was so easy, and she was a safe place for me. She was a home for me, and I did my best to be the same for her. And so it's so beautiful that people are responding to their friendship, because it was such a joy to bring it to life. And I'll also say with the living legends that are Ed Harris and Morgan Freeman, and I'll throw Gloria Rubin in there too. I've loved her all my life. I just learned so much from how heart forward these artists are and how seasoned they are. My goodness, it's really it's really mind blowing, and it really gripped my heart. Like, they imagine being right in their faces, right? While they're bringing just all of this life your way. I will never be the same again. It's really just, there are so many things to be grateful for with this film, and that's definitely one of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can only imagine being on screen with any one of those folks.
Oh my gosh.
Being around them and talking, it's like,
Yes.
That's Shawshank Redemption coming by.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like, name it. What? All my life.
When you were brought this project, what was your initial take, and what, made you want to commit to it?
I think it was the mission that made me want to commit to it, to be honest with you, because it wasn't something that I would have chosen. I wouldn't have chosen to do this film, at that time. I had recently wrapped Star Trek Discovery. Honestly, I was a bit wrung out. I was tired. I was ready to be home with my children and my husband. And then here comes this opportunity, and I wouldn't have chosen to be a soldier. I wouldn't have chosen to run, to be in that kind of, soul turmoil. But when I read that letter, and when I read what his hope was, which, like I said before, was literally to save lives, I had to. How could I not? I really. How could I not?
Right. I get that. Thank you for that. Your candor. you've really shared a lot here, and I'm just going through in my mind what you've brought up, and your desire to do this and do this very well and honor veterans and honor so many people involved in it as well. Um, have you had any experiences yet with veterans who have seen it, or audience members maybe that have come to you and shared like an impactful vignette or a story you could share?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. So many veterans. Um, you included, you know. Yeah, so many have talked about how they see themselves in Merritt. They see themselves in Zoe. They see themselves in others. There are also people who have shared, their experience with me, and they're not veterans, right? They just have some sort of connection to veterans, or they have a connection to suicide and are passionate about suicide prevention. We even heard from someone earlier today who had a connection to Alzheimer's and had a pretty harrowing experience taking care of his mother. And so he really related to that element of the story. I know people who were touched by this film because they had someone who struggled with PTSD and post-traumatic growth, or struggled with it themselves, veterans and non-veterans. So many people are coming to us and sharing how the film has touched their hearts and how it stays with them. And there was one man who approached Kyle after we premiered at South by Southwest, and he was a Vietnam vet and, a much older gentleman. And he said to Kyle, "I have never talked about it, but now that I've seen your film, I think I'm finally ready to talk about it." And that's it in a nutshell, right there.
Absolutely. It's touching to hear. It's inspiring to hear. Having seen the film and experienced, and still thinking about it. Watched it a few days ago. Still thinking about it. I can see that. I can see, in a way, a field of dreams. You build something and people come.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yes.
So I hope other people see it and have the same impact to their lives in a positive way, to where they start processing things or accept traumatic events that they can't control. The outcome. What would you most want people to take away from this across the board?
I think I want, in addition to people being encouraged to talk about it, to not let it just grow and fester in the shadows of their hearts, in the attics, storage rooms of their hearts, but to just confront it by talking about it in safe spaces. In addition to that, I hope that people learn what I learned, which was how to listen better as well. Speaking to Kyle and to all the other veterans that were involved in this film, a lot of them shared how people don't necessarily listen. If they might ask an offhanded question, or maybe they might overreach and ask a question, but then when the question is being answered, they sort of detach, they disassociate, they disengage, they, their eyes glaze over, or they reach for their phone because they're like, oh, okay, because this is tough stuff. It's heavy stuff. And I learned, like, oh my goodness, we got to listen better too. We can't just tell these people to talk if we're also not prepared to listen. And that's to veterans specifically, but of course it's for everybody who wants to open up, right? But I now understand that the deification is a problem, and I also understand how how to get into the muck and mire, even if it's only for a few moments, to listen. And I'm so grateful that I learned that. I'm so grateful. I'm so sorry for all the times in the past where, I passed by a veteran or was in conversation with a veteran, and all I said was thank you for your service, and I didn't ask any follow-up questions. I look back on that and I'm like, man, but now I'm so excited to go out and do that, right? And so I hope that other people do that too.
Absolutely. You're 100% correct. People, we all need to work at being better listeners.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. Everyone has their own life, their own things going on, but being able to sit and listen and be silent and reflective, it's a challenge, but it's a worthy challenge that I think not just veterans, but first responders, or just folks who are working Joes out there that need someone to listen to them and have had a traumatic experience. It's vital. So I'm glad you shared that perspective. It's been on my mind for a few
Mm.
years.
Mm.
So on a brief closing note, Kyle and I worked together years ago. I was a PA on one of his short films. Uh, yeah, yeah. I knew him, remembered him, and when I saw this come out, I was like, I'll make sure I've transitioned more into journalism now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that. That's great.
Comes full circle. And then one of my friends, Ali Borgia, she was in the veteran sequence, the veteran therapy group. She was the Air Force veteran, so
Yes.
doing well. And
Wow, look at that. Oh, I love it.
small world.
It is a small world, man. That's great.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to share before I step away, but I'm very grateful. Glad you were the chosen one to lead the film.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That means a lot coming from you. I'm so glad that I got to meet you. This was such a good talk. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh.
And wish you the very best in your career.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.